and hopefully that's it started. Brilliant. So as I said, welcome to St Fergus. We always start off with our vision of St Fergus, and our vision was created just a couple of years ago by staff, parents and pupils and some of our partners, and it really is working together to promote excellence and achievement and well-being for all, and that really is what we try to do here with all of our children and our staff. And parents. We're one big happy community, and we hope that that you'll enjoy being part of that community. What we have here is just a kind of a list of the staff that your children and yourself will come into contact. As I said, there's myself, head teacher, Jackie, who's our deputy, and Michelle, our class teacher. In the classrooms, your children will come out and maybe come home and say some names here. So we've got some classroom assistants and additional support needs assistants. So we've got Miss Amy Bryan, Mrs Anne Moran and Mrs Jane Patterson. We also are very lucky to have our nursery officer, who is Mrs Lynn Ellis, and our inclusion support assistant, who is Mrs Elizabeth Callery. Sometimes your children will call her Betty, so just in case you hear that name, she is a member of our staff. And both the nursery officer and the inclusion support assistant is provided through our PEF funding from the Scottish Government. We also have a new home link person whose name is Pamela McKaken, and hopefully you'll get to know her as well at your time here in St Fergus. We have two janitors now. We've got Mr Scott Anderson, who's been here for over 20 years, and you'll see him around at the gate. And then we've got Mr John Scott, who starts from 11 o'clock and he's in the canteen, and then he's also works till 7 o'clock at night. And then the most important member of our staff is Mrs Anne Ingram, who keeps us all together and keeps us nice and calm, and she's the person that you'd speak to on the phone. And I'm sure some of you have already had that opportunity to have a chat with Anne as well. So that is our staff. Obviously there's a lot more staff, teachers staff, but these are the staff that your children will get to know when they're in St Fergus. So you should already be aware of when the start dates are. So the first day of is Monday the 16th of August. What I should say to you that we're still under restrictions to do with COVID-19, and we will not know what August will look like until July. And I know that's unsettling for yourself, but it's also unsettling for us, because I wanted to make sure that you know absolutely everything that you can possibly need to know for your children starting school. The way that we did it last year, because at the moment we're still not allowed to have parents in the building, we're still not allowed to have parents. So if somebody's got their mic on, I'm wondering if they could mute the mic, please. I know somebody's just joined us. So the way we did it last year is we want to make sure that all the children are in the building first, or older children, to give you the opportunity to come in, and so it's a lot quieter for your children. So that's why we ask on the first day they start at 9:15. If we are allowed to have you in the classrooms, we will have you in the classrooms. Last year we weren't, and again I won't know that until nearer the time. And what I would ask you to do is to enter the school from the playground, and myself, Jackie, and a few other staff will be there to help you. If you're allowed in the classroom, we'll ask you to go into the classroom with your child. The class is set out very differently to maybe what you would remember a school classroom to look like, and therefore there's no set desks for the children. We use, and Mrs Gray will talk a wee bit more about this when she's talking about the learning and teaching. So you would just come in, take your picture of your child, and then the best thing to do is actually to walk and leave your child with us, because it can be quite overwhelming for the children and the parents. And as soon as we get children in and the parents out, you know, the children are much more settled. So that's what we ask you to do. On the first day only, again, is to give you the opportunity to make sure it's nice and quiet, but also your opportunity to have a quick word with Mrs Gray to find out how the children were. We ask that you collect your children by 2:15, and that will be from the main entrance. And then after Tuesday the 15th of August, we start the full day. So they're in from hopefully 9 until 3. If we still have staggered entries and exits, it will be slightly earlier. The children in primary 1 will start at 8:45 and finish at 2:45. But again, I'm not 100% sure whether we're going to have to maintain that. And if we do, I'll make sure that it's communicated through our website and the app and all the other channels that we have to make communication. So I'd ask you to kind of keep your eye on those channels, please. So really what I wanted to give you is really what we're actually doing to keep the children and the staff and everybody in our school community safe with regards to COVID-19. So the mitigations that are in place is hand washing. We wash our hands as soon as we enter the classroom, before we leave and into the playground, when they come back in. It's very much, we need to make sure that the children are washing their hands. What I would say, if your child's got sensitive skin, please provide them with their own soap, because our soap is not catered for children with sensitive skin. And if you just get it, we'll put a sticker on your child's soap, and that's the soap that they would use when they're washing their hands. In line with the Scottish Government, we've got good ventilation in place in the classroom. The windows are opened all the year round. To make sure that the particles of any particles of COVID-19 can go out of the environment. We do lots of outdoor learning, because again, when we're learning outside, COVID-19 has less chance of transmitting. As I said earlier, we've got staggered entries, different play times, lunch times and exits. But what we do ask parents to do is to have their physical distancing in place at the school gates. If there is staggered entries and exit times, we ask you to only bring your children at those times and leave the area straight away, because we're trying to stop lots of gathering outside the school gates. We would ask that you wear a face mask in that area, and that if you are talking to the teachers, you keep your face mask on and you maintain the physical distancing with the teachers. What we do operate at the moment is class bubbles, so which means that they are only allowed to stay within their class bubble to play, to eat, and in their classroom. And what we have done is, so that each class has a separate toilet area, and again, this is maintaining bubbles. We've got unisex toilets. So primary ones have toilets where they've got 2 cubicles in it, 1 cubicle for the boys, 1 cubicle for the girls, and there's also a toilet off of the classroom base as well. And that's what we've got in place, and that has been working for us. We've not had outbreaks of COVID-19 within the school, or we've had one, but again, that was a visiting person coming into the school, and it only affected a small number of children as being close contact. So the mitigations that are in place have been working for our school community, and if they are in place next year, that's what we'll be following again. Is it to get any questions about those mitigations at the moment? No? Okay, I'll just move on then. So I'm going to pass over to Jack.
Yeah, don't be surprised if your child doesn't want to come into school after the first day, because they quite often think that they don't have to. The first day, they just quite often think that they're up here for a wee visit and that it was a nice day and that they don't have to come back. So don't be overly concerned about having to sort of persuade them otherwise. Obviously, this is a huge step for them starting school. It's a completely different environment, and there's lots of new faces from sort of adults to just their peers in general, a lot of new children that they will be meeting for the first time. So it can be quite overwhelming for them, and we do take that into account and consider that and sort of getting the children settled in. But I would say this year, more than any other year, is going to be a challenge for the wee ones, just because of COVID and the lack of consistency that they've had with their nursery. They've spent more time with you than they normally would. So it's going to be kind of an even bigger challenge for them to sort of come into the and get themselves settled. So it's just taking all of that like into account and be patient. Obviously, you know, if you do have any concerns, we very much adopt an open door policy. And we would encourage you to sort of contact the school office, speak to Michelle, the class teacher, at any point that you know, maybe have an issue or any worry or concern. And we'll work with you, you know, to sort of sort things out. If, you know, there's any absences, we again would ask that you contact the school office before 9:15 in the morning, and that way that just it puts our mind at rest that we know why your wee one, you know, isn't going to be joining us that day. If we don't hear you know, from you, or if we're not able to get in touch with you, then it just becomes concerning for us, because we do need to know why they're not going to be in. Any sort of late coming, maybe after 9:15, we ask that you just come to the school office and you'll be buzzed in, and we'll take it from there. The number, our school number, it can come up as an unknown number if we're maybe trying to contact you. So it's just to have that awareness that it could be us that are trying to get in touch with you. You know, if your child maybe had a wee fall or something in school, and we're just wanting to let you know, just to have that awareness that unknown number could be us trying to get a hold of you.
Thanks, Jack. So your children have already been in nursery, some of them since they were babies, and more recently some of them maybe since they were 2 or 3, but they've already started the road to Curriculum for Excellence, and they've done that throughout their placement. And we're just carrying on from the good work that the early learning centres have done with your children. And throughout their primary career, they look at 8 main areas. So they look at literacy, numeracy, health and wellbeing, religious and moral education in the Catholic school, expressive arts, sciences, social subjects and technologies. And we actually do this sometimes they'll be looking at areas all together, and we're looking at them transferring their skills from one area of the curriculum into the other area of the curriculum. So you've probably heard quite a lot recently about national attainments, more about the primary, about the secondary SQA results, but we follow the national attainment. So early level is usually attained by the end of primary 1, but sometimes it does take children a little bit longer, and we don't want you to worry about that, because we want all children to learn at their pace, but we'll do everything we can and put supports in place to help your child. When they get into primary 2, they'll start on the first level, and hopefully again that will be completed by primary 4, and then primary 5 they'll start at the second level, and that would be completed by primary 7, and then the third and fourth levels go into secondary S1 to S3. As I said, you know, every child is different. Please don't be comparing children to children. They all learn and develop at their own stage, and that's what makes your child unique, and that's what we focus on in school. So at this point, Mrs. Gray, Michelle, is going to kind of lead you through the learning and teaching that takes place in a primary 1 classroom.
Hi everybody. So in primary 1, one of the first things that we will start to do is to look at phonics, and phonics is the way that we teach our children how to read and to write, and the programme that we use is Jolly Phonics. So what will happen is the first sound that your child will be taught is the letter. And the way that we do that is we have a story that we will share with the children, and each sound has got an action and a song that goes with it. So if they come home singing little songs, the snake is in the grass, that's what they are using to help learn. We also have characters, puppets. So this is a snake from Jolly Phonics. Now, the reason that we start with a, p, and n is because that group of letters allows your children to start making words very quickly. So we do not start with A, B, C, D. because what we want your children to do, as soon as they know their sounds, we're going to be encouraging them to have a go at sounding out and making words. And the SAT and sounds have so many words that we can make. Now, one of the things that we will do is I will send home at the start of the year some flashcards that you can be using at home. So what I'll do is I'll send home 6 at a time. So I'll send home SAT, and if you've got just a wee tub, like a wee takeaway tub or a wee box or something, just put anything into that little box. And at home, if you can be saying, like, what's that sound? Ask them to tell you the sound. Ask them to show you the action. If they can remember the song, ask them to sing you the song. And it's all just things that are going to help them remember their sounds. And very quickly, we'll start showing them how to blend their sounds together in order to make their words. So the more that you can be doing at home to help them would be absolutely brilliant. Now, in school, we have a multi-sensory approach. So we will be using sand, we'll be using paint. As Mrs. McDonald was saying, we try to take our learning outdoors as much as possible. And we've been doing a lot of work to redevelop our outdoor area. So it might be using things that they can find in nature to make the letter shape. It might be looking for things in nature to help us. Sand, pebbles, rocks, anything that's helping them with their formation and to help them remember their sounds would be great. As I say, for homework, when they're looking at literacy homework, I will post little videos on YouTube where you will have the song, you will have the actions. Again, dipping in and out of that as much as you can at home. Any little extras that you can be doing to help would be really beneficial. And even when you're out and about in the street, if you see letters that you know that your child knows, ask them to tell you, what is that letter, what is that sound. If you see little short words that they know that they can read because they know those sounds, just encourage them. It's about trying to make it fun for them as much as we can. And in class, we play lots of games. We have lots of games on the computers, on the iPads, all just things to try and engage them. Their learning in primary 1 is very active. They are not going to be sitting at desks from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. There's going to be lots of independent learning, lots of play. But the children really enjoy it and they really do take a lot away from it. Okay.
And now Mrs. Rowley's just going to talk a little bit about reading.
Yeah, so the main reading scheme that we use throughout the school, the lower school, is Big Cat. But this won't be, the only sort of range of books that your child will be exposed to. We have quite an extensive supply of books within each of the classrooms in our own school library. So there will be, exposure to a wide range of texts, and the children, will have the opportunity to have access to those in school and, to sort of bring home as well. The teaching of reading itself is very much modelled through the class teacher, and she will use a range of books, usually big books, to teach all the different strategies that the children will need to help them to or to learn how to read. Some of those strategies are obviously using that phonic knowledge there that Michelle was talking about to sort of sound out words. And reading further along the text to see does it make sense if they're having a guess maybe at what the word is, and obviously using as well as that surrounding text the pictures, all of which are strategies that the children kind of draw upon to help them through that reading process, and they become independent readers. There is the opportunity, as Michelle was saying there, within class to have lots of practice to, read as a group, to read just on their own quiet enjoyment of reading, or reading, with their friends, with their peers. At home, obviously, again, you can be that sort of model teacher. Paired reading is an ideal opportunity for the children, again, to pick up those skills as you share a book with them. The more that they can handle a book, even just how to hold the book properly, and it's quite often you'll see children hold it upside down and they're quite happily reading away. So just simple things of holding the book and turning the pages, and you directing the reading direction from left to right, using your finger to go along the text. and just talking through the storyline and talking through the pictures. You doing that at home, you're very much aiding the whole process of teaching your child how to read. So it is a very, you know, valuable thing to do with your child. As they go through the process, if there are any difficulties or anything that we're concerned about, we will be in touch, and it will be very much, again, you know, working together as a team to put the right supports that your child may need to help them through that process. And equally, if you find when you're doing reading at home, if there's something that you think they're struggling with, just again to come to us, to come to Michelle and let us know.
Thank you. And just Michelle, you're going to talk about numeracy.
Yep, so another one of our big focuses is numeracy. Now in primary one, our focus is being able to count up to 30 and to be able to recognise numbers up to 30. Now for some children, they will go beyond 30 and they will be looking at larger numbers. But it's important, it's not just about your child being able to count up to 30 confidently. Your child needs to know what number comes next, what number comes before, what number's missing, number patterns, as well being able to do one-to-one correspondence. So if I say to your child, I would like 12 cubes, it's making sure that they can carefully count out 12, because what we find is children are really good at counting. They do a lot of counting in nursery and they can confidently count up to 10, 20 or 30, but it's really important that we spend a lot of time making sure that they really understand what those numbers mean, what those numbers look like, how to use those numbers, how to write those numbers, how to order those numbers. So again, at the start of term, I will send home a little thing of flashcards. It will just be on one sheet, and if you just cut them out, again, put them in that same tub you've got at home that's going to have their sounds in them, and use them all the time. Take out a flashcard, and if it's number 4, ask them what comes next, what comes before. Can you get me 4 bits of Lego? Can you get me 4 bits of pasta? Anything that you've got round about your house, really make sure that they've got a really good understanding. So as I say, it's not just about being able to count up to 30. We really need to make sure that they understand those numbers. We will use a lot of videos. YouTube is a wonderful place. You'll get to know the likes of Jack Hartman very, very well. He's a great guy on YouTube who does lots of counting videos, very active. Children absolutely love it, but they don't realise that they're learning. They think that it's just fun on the smartboard. They're dancing, they're following actions, but they're counting in 2s, they're counting in 5s, they're counting in 10s, and all really good basic skills that they are going to need as they move up through St Fergus. We will do a lot of addition and subtraction. And again, verbally, your child might be very confident, but we will use a lot of concrete materials. It's really important that the children understand what it looks like. So in class, we will use cubes. You might hear your children talking a lot about Numicon. Numicon's a fab resource that we use a lot in school. And again, it's just about kind of training the children to think about the number families, the number stories, what numbers add together to make certain numbers, and lots of concrete material. So when they're doing this in the house with you, give them something to count, give them something to actually hold on to is really, really beneficial for them. Shape, measure, things that are very practical. We try to take as much of our learning outdoors as we can. Money's a great one. Children always do really, really well with money. And if you're out and about and in the shop, encourage them to pay, encourage them to look at the coins. Can you tell me what the coins are? Any chat that you can have with your child to help them understand the importance of numbers and why we use numbers every day in our lives is really, really, really useful for them, that they don't just see it as something that they're doing in the classroom. We try to help them understand that numeracy is embedded throughout their lives. If they're going for a bus, they need to know about time, they need to know, be able to plan what bus they need to get to be there for a certain time. If they are cooking, they need to know how to be able to measure things out. So it's giving the children that real life concept and that idea that these skills are actually really important, not just in primary school, but for their whole life. So that's a wee bit about numeracy in St Fergus.
Thanks, Michelle. This year we came across obviously unprecedented problems with regarding to teaching children with the 2 lockdowns that we've had, and also we've been trying to mitigate against COVID-19 coming into school, because we know with the data it talks about it being on books and on different things, which is why we've moved now to homework being online. This year, primary 1s and 2s have been using an online portal called Seesaw, but we need to make sure that the whole school is able to access Google Classroom. So we now do, your children will then go on to doing their homework on their Google Classroom. I don't want you to worry about that, because we will try our best to kind of navigate you through that. It's very much, we're hoping that come August it will be able to have kind of in-person meetings with parents, and we will try our best to make sure that you know how to get onto your child's Google Classroom, how to navigate around that, and help them with their homework. Children do need their parents' help, but the homework is there just to give them that wee bit of extension of what's happened in the class. Also gives them an opportunity to share their learning with you, especially boys, because they'll come home and they'll say, nah, I didn't do anything today, or no, I can't remember. Being a mum of a boy, I know exactly what they're like, and I can see some mums here smiling and saying, yeah, my sons are like that as well. So this is just a way of getting an opportunity to open that discussion with your child. What I would say to you is that if you've got any issues with devices, if there's any issues with internet connections or data, financially, if there's anything there that we can do to help you, we will do our best to do that. There's always avenues of support that we can tap into to help you get the equipment that you need, or your internet connection that you need to help support your children and with online learning. I was going to ask Mrs. Gray to kind of give some of you examples of things that you would be doing online for homework.
So homework, you're looking at about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, absolutely maximum. So the tasks will be quite short, quite sweet. So usually a Monday would be a literacy homework task, a Tuesday a numeracy, a Wednesday back to literacy, and a Thursday a numeracy task. And depending on what we're doing in the class, there might be little extra things put in there to do with topics or other particular areas that we're looking at. We will use a lot of online resources. So as I was saying, if we're introducing a new sound, I will always send a little YouTube clip where you'll be able to hear the Jolly Phonics song and be able to see the action. And actually one thing that I wanted to say about the sounds was, and I don't think I mentioned it earlier on, when we are talking about the sounds, so we know that this is letter S, about this being the letter S, we talk about the sound, so we would say, because when your child is trying to decode or to blend or to read or to write a word, when they are sounding it out in their head, they will not be saying SAT for sat, they will be sounding it out phonetically. So the letter sound, the letter name is S. So when you're doing homework tasks at home, really important that they will be used to saying sports. So there'll be a little video and then there will be some little activities. So it might be identifying the pictures that start with the letter. It might be nice weather. I might ask them to go outside and see if they can make the letter. If you take a little picture of it, you can upload it onto our Google Classroom, and that way I'll be able to see their work, leave a wee comment and kind of let them know how they're getting on. The same for numeracy. Numeracy, there are fabulous games online, again, fabulous songs, action songs. I'll be asking them to practice and I will be directing you to an online activity or something that you can do in the house. One of the ones that my children have loved this year, if I give them a sound, I will ask them to go on a hunt around their house. So it might be a, so they'll come back and they'll have a picture of an apple, they'll have an act, they'll have different things that start with the letter A, and they'll take a wee picture for me, and sometimes they might even record a wee video saying this is an apple, and just getting them to identify the sound and to see the sound round about their environment. But 10, 15, 20 minutes, if homework is taking longer than 20 minutes, please come and speak to me. And what I would say is don't, if your child's getting upset and really resisting the urge to do homework, it's not something that's worth getting into, any issues with. Just let your child know, that's fine, I'll speak to Mrs. Gray in the morning and we'll see what we can do in school to help that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I would also say is, I know Jackie spoke about reading books and reading schemes. Because of restrictions that were in place, we've not been able to send reading books home to the house. But what we do have is we've got online kind of login details for reading eggs, and we're actually looking into an online programme that goes alongside our reading scheme, our Big Cat reading scheme, and hopefully that will be in place by August. But we can borrow you library books to keep in the house, but just not bringing them back into school. Because we would have to quarantine them. So that's kind of a little bit about homework, and I'm sure, as Michelle said, no more than 15-20 minutes, and don't stress about it. If they're not wanting to do it, that's fine by us, and we'll just have a wee chat with them and with you, and kind of work together and see what we can do to support and help. So just so that you're aware of this, the Scottish Government have had in place for a number of years now the Scottish National Standardised Assessment, and you've probably heard about this in the news as well. We're changing how we do that, and we're going to be doing it in the first term. Please don't worry about this. This is a computer-based assessment, and it really just gives us a baseline to see where your children are, because we don't know your children very well, and yes, we've got the information from the nurseries, but we want to make sure. Sometimes children in nursery, they kind of hide actually what they can and can't do very well. So this is a computer-based assessment, and it focuses on literacy and numeracy. And what I've said to parents in the class, don't worry, you don't need to study, and this is about what your child already knows, and it'll be carried out by either Mrs. Gray or Mrs. Ellis, and that gives us a great way of understanding where your children is in their learning.
Mind, it's great. My kids have just completed it, and actually it just looks like an online game to them with nice graphics and nice sounds and things like that. So my kids have actually really enjoyed doing it because they just seen it as a fun game that they got to play on the iPad, and there really wasn't, they enjoyed it. They asked when the next one was.
Thanks, Michelle. So is there any questions before we go further? If there is anything, you can just raise your hands. Don't really see anything. No? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to let Jackie talk to you a wee bit about playtime. Oh, sorry, can I add?
Staffy's, got her hand up there.
Staffy, do you want to come in there and just ask the question? Just unmute your mic.
Hello, good morning. Thank you. It's just a quick question on is there a list of books, like let's say we want to do some learning in the house, is there a list of books that we could buy or online or anything that we could access?
I'll let Mrs. Gray answer that one, if that's okay.
So as we're going on Google Classroom, I will be posting lots of things online, and the things that I'm posting online and the box of flashcards, really at the start of primary one, that's all you need. See until your wee one is in and settled and started, and we start to build a picture. If we think that they are requiring any extra support, we will put that in place in school, and if there's things that you can be doing at home to help, we will give you those things. The same as well if your child needs any challenge because they are doing really, really well in a particular area, we will resource that for you, and we will make sure that you've got what you need. So I would say buy anything that you need, we are going to give you from the school. So I wouldn't buy anything.
Taffy, what I would also say is, I loved when my children were younger was just to read to them, just any kind of children's books. I know that Julia Donison is a great author of children's books because there's lots of rhyming in there, and rhyming is something that children do find a wee bit tricky. So all of the kind of the books that you would see, I'm trying to think of the authors. Julia Donaldson is one of my favourite. Mrs. Gray, can you remember any other authors that we would kind of have offhand?
Julia Donaldson's one of the main ones. Any story that basically interests your child. What I'd say as well is it doesn't just need to be stories. What you find for boys is comics sometimes will work better, newspaper articles, magazines, anything that interests your child. And at the start of primary one, we will use a lot of picture books, so there won't even be any words in the story. Because as Mrs. Rowley was saying, we want to develop their reading strategies. So using pictures, looking for clues, making predictions. What do you think? What the most important thing is, it's the conversation that you're having with your child. It's the conversation that we're having with them, and pushing them that way. That's the most important thing. Asking them lots of questions.
Does that answer the question, Jack?
Absolutely, thank you.
No problem, no problem. So I'll just move on to Jackie now.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in the school that we do have a number of support staff members that can supervise within the playground. However, despite that, accidents can still happen. Arguments and friendships can break down, and there can be fights or whatever. But we very much adopt the policy of no hitting back, and that the children should tell an adult, which I know goes against maybe what a lot of parents, what you yourself might actually teach your child, where you maybe would encourage them to hit back if someone hit them. But within school, we have over 150 children in here, so we do have to very much make sure we're de-escalating situations rather than having a situation get out of hand. So that hence the reason it's no hitting back, and come and speak to an adult, and then an adult will intervene and talk the children through what's happened and how to move forward. There are situations that we, as I say, may miss in the playground, or the children, something has happened and they've maybe not said to an adult. If they maybe come home and they would share that with you, then again, we encourage you just to give us a call, so that we can then sort of deal with it, and ensure that we sort of put a stop to it and we move forward in the right way. And the actual rules, if you like, that we focus on within the playground are sort of kind hands, kind feet, and kind words. And we very much have a focus on our school values, which are just displayed there in front of you. God's love, honesty, positive attitude, respect, and responsibility. So when I mentioned earlier there about having that dialogue, with the children about, a situation that's happened or somebody's hit or whatever, the focus is around those values and talking about, being respectful towards each other, showing God's love, being honest and telling exactly, what happened and why it happened, and then kind of thinking, well, how can we fix things? What can we do to move things forward? So that's very much a restorative dialogue that would take place between, the children involved and the adults. And our staff, throughout the school are trained in sort of restorative dialogue and de-escalation sort of techniques. So, and also, within the playground, any children with sort of health issues with regards to the need for inhalers or EpiPens, those are labelled, they're named, and the children do carry them with them out into the playground so that they're there if required. They'll go into the lunch hall with them. So yeah, it's just very much trying to foster everything we do within the school around our values, so that we don't really need to have those restorative dialogues. It's trying to keep it all to a minimum. If we all adopt that's a positive attitude towards each other and friendships, then it's just making for a more harmonious, happy, safe place to be. And that's very much the dialogue that Mary and I would have with the children, is that we just want to make sure that you are safe and happy within St Fergus. And if you ask the children, you know, what do we want you to be in St Fergus, they will all be able to say to you safe and happy. So that's very much a focus, and hence we put so much emphasis on our school values.
Thanks, Jackie. Taffy, can I just check if you've got another question, or is it just from the last question that you asked, which is the hand still up?
Oh, it's from the last one.
Yeah.
Maybe I can squeeze in another question. I've got lots.
Yeah, go for it.
How many kids are in one class?
This year for primary one, and I'm going to explain that a wee bit later on, Taffy. Primary one, there is supposed to be 20, maximum of 25 with one teacher. This year we have got 28 children, but we will be having 2 teachers in the one class. I don't have any information on who that other teacher is at the moment, but Mrs. Gray will definitely be there. So actually your children are coming into school, and it's going to be better for your children, because there are going to be 28 children with 2 teachers, and that's just a dream for the teachers as well. So that's what you have when they go into primary 2 and 3, it's 30 children, and then when you go up to primary 4 to 7, there's 33 children. It's the maximum capacity in the class. Does that answer your question, Taffy?
Absolutely, thank you.
No problem. So we're back on to Michelle now, just to talk a little bit about gym time.
So every week your child will have 2 hours of PE, and that will be a mixture of outdoors and indoors. If the weather's nice, we will definitely be outside. The children have really enjoyed this year having to be outside for gym. It's been quite good. It's pushed me to be more creative outside and to think about how to deliver good quality PE lessons outside. So we definitely don't want to go back inside if we can avoid it, and we do want to be staying outside as much as we can. When we know next year what the timetables are going to look like, I'll put a wee note on Google Classroom or Seesaw. Now, Seesaw is another platform that we use in class, and it's more a record of their work in class. So what your child will be doing is taking pictures on Seesaw, and you can download the app onto your phone or your tablet, and it will just ping up and you'll be able to see it straight away. So they'll just be taking pictures of what they're doing in class. So it's a really nice way for you to see what's going on. So I will put on Google Classroom and I will put on Seesaw when our gym days are. Now, at the moment, we're not allowed to use the changing rooms. And as Mary was saying, that might change when we come back in August. So if it doesn't change, your child just comes to school with their polo shirt on, joggies on, and we will be outside for gym. If we are allowed to use the changing rooms, I would still suggest a polo shirt on gym days, because the ones and buttons and ties is very time consuming to get them ready, as you know yourself. So we'll know neither the time if we are allowed to use the changing rooms or not. I would say on gym days, make sure they've got full polo shirt on, you know, the white or the yellow polo shirt on, and a pair of joggies. What I would say as well is no PE for gym. So that's earrings, rings, watches. Again, I'm not allowed to help them take their earrings and things off. So if your child does have their ears pierced in the morning, could you please take their earrings out? Because I'm not allowed to take earrings in or out. And if they are wearing earrings, then they can't take part in gym. There's obviously too much risk of things catching, you know, we're throwing and catching and somebody bumps into somebody, and there's just too much risk there for an injury to your wee one. So no jewellery. Names need to be on everything, especially with 28 children in the class. 28 size 5 jumpers all look the same, especially in August when they are all pristine and they've got their full uniform on. It can get very hot in the classroom and they just want to take jumpers off. And you will know as well as I do, they're not great at picking things up and popping them in their school bag or putting them on the peg. If you could please make sure that everything has got their name on it, even just their initials, because I know that those wee labels are very difficult to get their names onto them. And just as you're washing their clothes, please just keep checking that the initials are still visible on them. I will, with a Sharpie, write their initials on things if I notice that they don't have something on. because it is quite difficult to determine who belongs to what. The other thing I would like to add there is your child does not need to bring anything to school other than their snack, their lunch box if they're having a packed lunch, and a water bottle. So pencil cases, little toys, little things that they've got, please do not send them into school. As Mary said, they don't have their own desk. They don't have a tray or a sack where they can put things. So when they're coming into school and hanging up their bags, they are not going back near them. So they do not need fancy pencil cases in school. They do not need little toys, little gadgets, things like that. Obviously, phones and technology, things like that are a no-go. We don't have them in school. So just if you could be mindful that they're not bringing those things into school, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm just going to talk a little bit about lunchtime now. So all children at the moment in primary 1 to 3 are entitled to a free lunch. I think I read over the weekend that by August, primary children up to 4 and 5 will then be entitled to that. Again, that's not been, I know that was one of the Scottish Government's manifestos issues, you know, so, or pledges, sorry. But what I would say to you is that if your child is entitled to a free school meal, even though they get it, can you please apply for it? Because that gives the school avenues to apply for grants. It also impacts in the awards that are given for Pupil Equity Fund. It's all linked to free school meals and clothing grants. So if you are entitled to it, please still apply for it, even though they're in primary 1 to 3. As Michelle said, it does get really tricky, but if they're going for a packed lunch, you know, because they might have all the same packed lunch boxes. So again, a Sharpie or a sticker to make sure the children knows what their packed lunch box looks like. But if it's got a lid, put the name on the lid and the actual box, because again, they go missing. Water bottles, please provide your child with a water bottle. They've got access to water throughout the day from our filtered water fountains. But if you put the name in it on them, we do have a healthy eating. We try to promote healthy eating in school. So I would ask that the sugary snacks are limited and that you do not provide your child with any fizzy drinks because there's no requirement for fizzy drinks in school. There's new menus. There was, and it's on a weekly rota. And this is where I don't know whether my technology is going to work. So it should actually now take us to the page that I'm going to show you. And hopefully it does. Can anybody see a new screen? No. Not yet. I'm just going to show you where that is. Hold on a second. There we go. Can you see the new screen now?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. That's it. Okay, I just need to be able to see me. So you can see now this lunch menu was supposed to start a week on Monday. However, that has been withdrawn this morning. I found that out, and it's due to the fact that Brentford cases of COVID is rising. So therefore, we're not supposed to have a number of bubbles within a canteen area. But this is the new menus that your children will be that will have. So the week 1, as you can see, and week 2. But there's also the dairy-free menu. As you can see, if your child has specific dietary requirements, you can contact the school and we can make sure that that's available for them, along with an egg-free menu and a gluten-free menu. And when they're updated, this is where the information that you can find from Renfrewshire Council. But what we also have, we are a cashless school. You won't really need to know about this because it is free. However, we use parent pay for our non-uniform days, for charity collections, lots of other things. So if you have a look at this page, it will give you information about how to set up your child's parent pay account. You will receive a letter from the school in August when they come, and it will have a unique code for you to kind of set that up. And Elizabeth Callery, who I spoke about earlier, Inclusion Support Assistant, will be available in the afternoons to help you set that up because you will need that. you know, going forward. So that's really just to kind of give you the information and where to find it on your school website. And I'm just going to click back over to this one, and hopefully that will bring the presentation back up. Yep. Okay.
That's you. Yep.
That's us. So we're now moving on to, and we've spoken a little bit about this, about the positive behaviour. So I know that Jackie's going to give you a wee bit more about this.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier our school values being at the core of, you know, everything that we do in St Fergus, and you know, it's very much used to promote positive behaviour throughout the school. There's a lot of, you know, different incentives within, you know, the classrooms that the teacher will use to promote that positive behaviour, from sort of recognition boards to something that's called dojo points. The children are, you know, merited points for just displaying positive behaviour in different ways, and there's kind of different, you know, rewards and things that they can cash in for that. But a whole school initiative, if you like, that we have is our Hot Chocolate Friday, where the children are sort of recognised for going above and beyond. So really, each member of staff, we have, I actually don't have mine to hand, as if someone's got theirs. Yes, so Mary and Michelle have got theirs there. It's a reward that each member of staff has. And if they see, you know, a child who is displaying, you know, any one of our school values, they're, you know, they're handed this recognition, and they come together on a Friday, and they do actually have hot chocolate with all the trimmings, the cream and the marshmallows and all, yeah, really healthy stuff. It is a treat. So it's a great opportunity for them to come together, and they share with us. That Mary and I will go into each Friday session and sit with the children, and you know, we have a chat around, you know, why did you get your hot chocolate you know, this week, and they share it with us and they share it with their friends, and it's just really a nice way to chat about you know, the displaying those values and the good that it's actually doing for them as individuals, but also, you know, as a school. And as I said earlier, about making, you know, that sort of safe, happy environment for all children to sort of thrive in. So, and it really does work, because the children, they do go above and beyond. We can tell the ones who are maybe artificially trying, you know, to get that merit, that reward, if you like. But they do respond to it, and they do want to be a part of it. So it is working really well, and you know, we have been able to continue it through COVID, you know, with our restrictions. It looks just sort of slightly, you know, different. We have to maintain our distancing with the, you know, the children, but we're still able to do it, which is great. And it's put onto our like online platforms. The pictures are taken and it's shared with, you know, everybody across the school. We do have like an anti-bullying and respect me policy. Mary, I think, might be able to share that with you. This was something that we put together. It was actually across Renfrewshire that everyone, you know, had to put together an anti-bullying respect me policy. And there were guidelines as to how to go about that. So it's due to be reviewed February 22. But you have access to that, and everything that we do, and you know, the way of trying to promote positive behaviour and not to allow that, you know, kind of bullying atmosphere to thrive within the school, is very much in that policy. It's definitely sort of, you know, worth reading. I would recommend that you do read that. Yes, you know, we have had situations of bullying, you know, within the school, and there are steps and measures that we take if there has been an incident, and we do have to report and record. And again, within the document, it'll give you a wee bit more information as to how we actually go about that. Basically, we have an electronic system, and we kind of follow the you know, the guidelines through that system to record the incident. but we're very much looking at, you know, what was the behaviour that actually, you know, occurred and what impact did it have, and then what do we do about it, you know, to resolve and move forward. But that's the key thing, is the impact and the feelings that, you know, a child may experience if there has been a bullying incident. And bullying is not necessarily something that, when you think of bullying, you think of, you know, repeated actions over a course of time, which, yes, you know, it is, but it can be a standalone incident, because it's very much about what happened and how it made that person feel, as to whether it can be deemed, you know, a bullying act or not. So we're very vigilant and do again have that restorative dialogue when a situation does happen, and it's very much focused around, as I say, working out what has happened and why did it happen, and stopping it from, you know, happening again, so that again that you know, bullying atmosphere is not allowed to thrive within the school. So that's where our sort of de-escalation and you know, restorative practice comes into play, very much so, and why our staff have been trained, you know, in those areas. But I would recommend sort of reading through the document, because you'll get, you know, I've just given you a wee kind of overview, but you'll get a wee bit more information. You'll find it quite useful, quite helpful.
Yeah. And as Jackie says, you know, our priority is to make sure that our children feel safe and happy, and that's why that policy is in place. But also, just from a parent's point of view, it does sometimes, you think that nothing's actually happening, and that is only because we can't talk to you about any other child, and we can't talk about sanctions or anything else that's been put in place. But we're looking for that partnership so that you can trust what we're actually doing is following that policy that we've got in place. And as Jackie said, we are due to review that in February 22, and you will all be consulted regarding that, so that we can see whether, is there anything that we need to change as things moved on, what else do we need to do. We will make sure that you've got a copy of that policy when you come in for your visit next week with your child as well. But you'll also, this PowerPoint I'll put onto the transition page, and you'll be able to kind of use the link here, and it will take you straight to that policy.
I think it's worthwhile as well just mentioning that just even the term bullying, you know, by the children themselves, it can be thrown about quite a lot. You know, he, she was bullying me, and it's not necessarily bullying. You know, which is why our sort of dialogues come into play there, to kind of break down and work out what's been happening. And a lot of the time it can't just be children being children, you know, just annoying each other and maybe not being so nice to each other, but not necessarily being bullied as such. So you know, it can be quite kind of grey area, and that's why we do need to kind of really talk it through, spend the time.
Yeah, and sometimes there might not be an answer to it, because there's always two sides to every story, and the truth is always in the middle. And I think, you know, you'll know that yourself if you've dealt with, if you've got more than one child in the house, you know, that's usually what happens. You know, that those he said, she said kind of side of things. So we do our best to try and make sure that we explore the situation. But also we need your help with that as well, to, if there's something at home that the children go home and say something that we don't know about, you need to let us know so that we can investigate it. The next part, you know, it's something that it's about child protection, because your children's coming into school, and you know, we've got a duty of care for your children, and this kind of part of the presentation is something that I need to make sure that every parent is aware of, because Renfrew Council stressed that it's everyone's duty to keep Renfrew's children safe. And you have a job to play in this as well. Should you feel that a child may be in danger, you know, you have got a duty of care for those children, and if you could contact the first response team, and the number is there. So I'm not going to apologise for what I'm about to say, but you know, what it is really just so that you're aware of what our duty is as kind of educators. So child protection allows teachers or other staff to notice one or a combination of the following: unexplained bruising or bruising in an unusual place. Children maybe appear quiet or withdrawn. Sometimes children might be afraid to go home. They appear constantly hungry, tired or untidied, be left unattended or unsupervised, have too much responsibility for their age or stage, be acting in an inappropriate way. Not the children be misusing drugs or alcohol. It's you know, looking at the parents and people around them. And maybe they'll tell us something that suggests that they've been hurt by someone. And these are the types of things that our staff are all trained to notice. And sometimes we will need to make a phone call to the first response team to discuss those concerns. And it might not be the right thing to do to contact you to tell you about it at the time. But I wanted to make sure that you know that this is what we have to do in circumstances such as I've listed there. However, and this is something that parents are not aware of, there's not been much information in the media about this. This is about the new act that's now in law, which came into force, I think it was November, last November. So you, as a parent or an adult, it's no longer allowed in law to physically discipline your child or to use any forms of chastisement. This includes slapping, smacking, scalping, spanking, or any other forms of discipline. All is now seen in law as assault. Physical punishment or physical discipline can take many forms, and only some of the things that I've mentioned there. This is a change in the law, which means that if a parent or carer does use slapping or smacking or physical punishment or discipline to their child, they could be prosecuted by the police. And it's the local authorities and other services' responsibility to make sure that families are aware of changes in the law and to promote the public awareness of understanding of what is now different. And I'm going to show you a website here, and Jackie's going to talk through some of the scenarios that you might find yourself in. And as I said to you, this is very new, and I've not highlighted this at the moment with our parent bodies in the school, because again it was only submitted to us with the right parent information in the past couple of weeks, but it will be going on our website very soon. So as I'm getting the next website out, Jackie will give you some scenarios and where we need to act.
Yeah, this is just a couple of scenarios really of how we need to respond to sort of different situations. Basically, if a staff member witnesses or becomes aware, if something is disclosed to them, that there's been some sort of physical chastisement, then they would come to us, and in line we would then contact social work and let them aware of the situation that has been disclosed or witnessed, and then the police would then be contacted, whether that's social work contacting the police or the school contacting the police. That's a discussion between the school and social work. So it would then be handed over to the police, who would have obviously carry out like an initial inquiry. They would have a meeting maybe with other agencies involved, and it would be then decided whether there was further action necessary or not, whether it might be interviewing the child or whatever. If a staff member, again, is maybe having a conversation, just a general conversation with a parent, who within that conversation they may sort of suggest that they have in some way used some sort of physical chastisement in their child, then that would be for the staff member, or if it was Mary or myself, just to have a dialogue with the parent around the fact that you know, those actions are now against the law, they're unlawful, and, you know, they can't happen, and have a dialogue around maybe other sort of strategies that they might be able to use. And then that would be the end of it, really. You know, no further action would be necessary unless, you know, within that conversation, the staff member or Mary and I ourselves felt that maybe there was a concern of risk, you know, to the child, and that's when we would, you know, sort of contact social work and go through, you know, those sort of procedures. So it is again sort of worthwhile looking at the information that Mary's provided there, because it is, as I say, it's very new, and it is new to us as well. So we are all just, you know, raising that awareness, if you like.
Yeah, and what I would say is, you know, Jackie and I don't judge. You know, there's no judgment in the school. We're here to help and support and help all families kind of work through the situations that might occur within the house. So please don't think, you know, what we're saying here is like a warning. That's not what it's like. We're just raising your awareness. As you can see in the screen, this is from Children's First, and that gives you more information about, you know, the law and, you know, help that you've got there for yourself. But again, we're here to work with you, and we want to give you those types of supports. So the best thing you can do is just be upfront and honest and just having a chat with us. Bearing in mind that Jackie and I and Michelle, we are all parents, so we have been through, you know, probably the things that you've gone through as well. And we know that parenting is the hardest job in the world to do, and we don't always get it right, but we know that if we talk with people that, you know, that you can understand different ways and to help and support. So I hope that, you know, you've got an understanding of why we have to raise that today. Is there any questions regarding that? I don't see any hands up. If there are any questions, Jackie and I will be here to, you know, for a couple of minutes after we finish the presentation, so that you can ask questions, or we can give you a wee phone after if you've got any questions you don't want to share them in this forum. So usually, and I'm just going to, usually at this time, we would all invite kind of different services into our meeting, but because of the way we are working at the moment, operating in the moment, we're unable to do that for this meeting. So there are services available to you from the school and surrounding areas, one of which is Families First, who are based in Glencoats, and who can help you with advice works, energy, parenting issues, you know, and, you know, there's Paul and there's Francis down there, and Vicky, who would, you know, we'd be able to kind of, you know, point you in the right direction if you think that, you know, that you would benefit from their services. There is an after school care based within the school. Information on our website will take you directly to their website. It's not part of the school, but we can give you the information for you to find out a wee bit more about that and whether they've got spaces if you are a working parent. We have an active schools coordinator, David Rose, who you'll get to know, you know, when your child is here, and he provides after school clubs, and usually with primary ones, they usually happen after Christmas, and that is to allow them time to settle in school. On our website, transition website, there's a buddy, and all the primary sixes have recorded a little video. They will be our primary sevens next year, and hopefully if COVID restrictions allow, they will be part of your child's journey in primary one. And then over the, as I said to you before, over the next couple of weeks or the next week or so, you've got an individual class visit to meet with the class teacher and see a little bit around the school. Jack's just going to give you a wee bit more information about your school visit.
Yeah, we've just sort of allocated a sort of a half-hour slot at the end of each day, beginning next week. And we're bringing you in groups of sort of 5 or 6, where it would be you know, your child and just one adult, which is obviously because of you know, the restrictions that we have in place, and we have to maintain our social distancing. You do need to wear a mask as well. Everyone will be required, you know, to wear a face mask, all adults, and you should have a note of your day. If anyone doesn't have their day, if you just let me know, and you know, I can get that to you. It's just an opportunity for you to actually see really inside school building, and to be able to see us in the flesh, albeit just for a wee short, you know, snippet of time. But it's always nice to see people face to face, and we are really, you know, looking forward to that. And there may be some other bits and pieces of paperwork that will just take that opportunity to grab you and get those completed.
Yeah. So as we have said, you know, how are you going to access this information? So this video and the presentation I'll put onto the transition page. Both our Facebook and Twitter accounts are private, which means that you need to request access to that. If you request access, what I will do is I will send then a messenger, you know, a messenger text message, if you like. Sorry, I couldn't think of the words there. To just to confirm who you are. And what I would say is only the parents or carers that will be granted access. So there'll be no grandparents or aunties or uncles that will be granted access. And I need to check that with you know, what's on the kind of the information that we have. So please do that, because I will try my best to put all of the information on there. The school app, which I know that you've had a copy of, how to join that, and our school website. I'm not going to go into each of these because I know that you've had access to that throughout. But the main page, which is important for you, and I'll make sure that everything goes on it, is this page here, who I will share with you, and hopefully you've had an opportunity to access it, which is a transition information page. So you can see here we've got you know, there's information about our school app. There's the information for your welcome booklet you received in your email. There is a wrong date in the welcome booklet, and that's to do with Easter. I think it said that they'll come back on Tuesday Monday the 19th, and it's actually Tuesday the 19th of April, but I'll make sure that that's amended. And then there's all the information that you've already done. Michelle's worked really hard to make sure that you've got, you know, that was the kind of for this meeting, but there's also the Best Start grants that you can apply for, and then there's all the transition sessions that Michelle has done. Please show these videos with your children because it will help them, and this is a great wee video just to show all of our current primary ones who were great actors over a series of a week or so, just to kind of a day in the life of primary ones, so that you know what your child will see in their classroom. So that's kind of it. You know, that's all we've got to say this morning. And what I will do is I'll send you a little kind of questionnaire if you just on the transition programme, because it has been different this year. I would ask you to complete that questionnaire just so that we can help building that for next year's parents. And this is now the opportunity where I'm going to stop the recording, but it gives us an opportunity to chat and have any questions that you want to ask myself, Jackie or Michelle. So I'll stop the recording now.